All right. Come in, right? We make it cozy today. Yeah, my name is Sven. I work as a DevOps advocate for Atlassian. And you might think, like, why is this guy from Atlassian on stage today talking about developer joy? I mean, really, we enjoy what we're doing, right? That's why we're also here at Øredev. We just love what we're doing. We enjoy our day. We create stuff. And that's actually why I became a developer, because I can create stuff myself and just deliver that to the customer. So the customer loves what I'm doing, right? So why in the hell is this guy from Atlassian staying on stage today at Øredev and talk about developer joy? That's obvious, right? We enjoy what we're doing. Well, so development has changed in the last 10 years, right? So we went through some phases, some things has changed, our tasks have actually changed, and we look at it, what happened in the last 10 years in software development, it was one thing, it was this, right? The cloud came. So we need to learn new toolings, new stuff, how to develop stuff for the cloud. It's different than when we develop stuff on-prem, right? We now run everything in the little small containers, and now these containers are up somewhere in the cloud, and we need to observe them, we need to see what they are doing, right? If the container is still there, so all of these things, and then we just develop everything in small little microservices, and every microservice has an API, so we can call in other microservices. But then we have to take care of, is the microservice there on the other side, and do this thing. So we learned all these things in the last 10 years, and don't let me start about security and governance, right? Now everything needs to be secured because it's in the cloud, available for everyone. So we just need to take more care of that than just 10 years ago. And then Werner Vogel came actually and said, you build it, you run it. So we are not just developing software. We're also running it now. We are responsible for the operational side of the software development, right? So everything of this came on the shoulders of software developers, came on top of our jobs, what we done 10 years ago. We added stuff. And don't get me wrong, all good, right? All good, right? But it added a lot of cognitive load, right? I think the DevOps movement is great, and that we are responsible for what we're building. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we should be, right? But now actually managers come and say, you know what? 10 years ago you were more productive, right? So how can we get you back to productivity, right? How can we get you more productive? And you said, duh, you added all those stuff, right? And it's for good, but hey, right? There's just limits here. So where does this obsession come from with productivity? Well, we have to travel back in time for that. Are you fine with that? Just traveling with me back in time? Okay, I count to 3, and then we travel back in time for 125 years, right? 1, 2, 3. All right. Here we are, back in time, 125 years ago, in the Bethlehem Steel Factory. So at that time, the Bethlehem Steel Factory had a productivity issue. They had a productivity problem. So what do you do if you have a problem? Well, you call up some consultants, right? Like McKinsey or the Boston Consulting Group. They come in with a bunch of consultants and fixing all your problems. At that time, it didn't exist, actually. So they needed to find another way, and they hired one guy called Frederick Winslow Taylor. Who have heard of Frederick Winslow Taylor? A few of you, great, yeah. He's famous for his Taylorism. So what he did, the first thing was just he pulled out his stopwatch, right? And just measured everything, right? Measured how fast the workers were doing stuff, and then he was optimizing small little things okay, this way is too long, so we put that machine more closer to you, and all the things, right? So optimize the hell out of the factory. And what he also noticed is when the workers were actually shuffling, they were shuffling coal, he just saw that coal was falling left and right from the shuffle. So the shuffle was just normal shuffles, right? So he actually built or let build custom-made shuffles, right? So they could shuffle better. Also, what he noticed is that in the beginning of the day, the workers could carry more stuff, right? And at the end of the day, obviously, they get exhausted, so they could carry less. But what he actually did was they gave the workers more breaks in between. So throughout the day, on an average, they could carry actually more. So all of these things he did to just like optimize everything, right? And he improved the productivity. Let me tell you, 400% of productivity improvement, right? Every manager wants that, right? Yeah, but there's a flip side, right? Everything comes with a flip side. You can't just like improve everything and then just like it stays how it is, right? He introduced new roles actually. So new roles were just like the workers. They were just like doing repetitive tasks. They weren't supposed to think. But he gave the managers the job to just like do the thinking for the workers, right? Sounds familiar? Huh? All right, but you know what? It's fucking 125 years ago, right? And we're still trying to apply these same rules that Frederick Winslow Taylor did back in the Bethlehem Steel Factory. Let's look, and we travel back in the year 2023, to how we just like do developer productivity these days, right? How do we measure developer productivity? Well, that was the first job that I get. Someone told me just like, please count the lines of code, and so we can report that to management, how much lines of code we added. We all know this is a stupid measurement. Doesn't tell anything about productivity at all, right? So what can we do instead? Just like, okay, we can count the issues that we have moved into done. Well, that's actually a better measurement, but still, right? We have larger issues and smaller features that we develop. So also not a good measurements. But hey, we have story points, right? We have story points. Story points is a good measurement for productivity, right? Well, instead, this is just like an estimate, right? We estimate before we do the job, the story points, right? It doesn't tell anything if we just like were very productive. It turns sometimes out that the task is bigger than we thought or smaller than we thought. So story points or even t-shirt sizes are not a good measurements for productivity. Well, now we just like come into, but there are the DORA metrics, right? Like cycle time or deployment frequency. All of these are just like good. But you know what? If you give this to developers, they will gamify the system and say, I can deploy more stuff if you want. Yeah, no problem, right? Numbers look good. So what actually then managers do? Just like, let's say we have the magic number of developer productivity. They say we need to improve it, right? We need to improve. We look back at Frederick Winslow Taylor, and he improved the factory work, the productivity of the factory workers. We need to do the same thing with developers. More pressure. Thank you very much, Frederick Winslow Taylor. Right? And we know this doesn't work, right? We will gamify the system as developers. That doesn't work. So nowadays, everyone talks about just like, developer productivity. Nah, maybe not. But let's talk about developer experience. Let's improve the experience that our developers have. And don't get me wrong, it's great. I love the term developer experience, and I love to improve the developer experience. The problem with that is that consultants also love the work developer experience, and they want to sell their services, so they come up with selling their new developer experience frameworks, right? And then you have to just like improve this and increase this and operational performance and all those things. Or if you heard about that, what McKinsey did recently, just like they count the story points and then we just like see how productive your organization or your development organization is, or how good the developer experience is. So we at Atlassian actually think like we want to go back to the real root of software developers, what motivates software developers. Why did actually software developers become software developers? Why we can go back to developer joy, right? We need to improve the developer joy, that people enjoy their work. So, and it's not rocket science. If you look at why we enjoy what we do, when we actually work on high quality code, great quality code, right? So code that is great, and you look at it in the morning and you open your IDE and you think like, wow, this is cool. Right? I love this code. It's great. I can make changes in it. It's just like super cool code. Or if you just like do things fast, right? Lightning fast. Just like you have an idea on Monday morning, you implement it on Tuesday, you deploy it on Wednesday. Great, right? No dependencies with other teams. Workflows, right? This is great. Or if you create value for your customers and your customers come back and you take pride of your work and say, wow, the customers come back to you and say, wow, we really love what you do. It really helps us on our day-to-day job, right? Keep on the good work. Guess what? If these three things come together, I super enjoy what I'm doing. At the same time, I'm also productive, right? I'm also very, very productive. So we just like talk about this developer joy to improve the developer joy within Atlassian. And I give you a few examples of teams at Atlassian that have changed something, the way they worked, and improved their developer joy. So let's talk about quality. How do we just like improve the quality for our code, right? Yeah, there are certain rules that we can apply, like coding guidelines or something, right? But we improve the quality of code by just like having some reviews, right? We're reviewing the code, so we're doing some code reviews. You all do code reviews, right? Yeah? CIC nodding, right? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, good. Love it. But there's a big problem actually with code reviews. I tell you what it is. It's a human problem, actually. So let's assume I have added these lines of code, right? And then I put a pull request out there and say, hey, reviewers, review my code. The first comment that I get is this one here. What the fuck, Sven? And I just ask, what do you mean? Okay, right? I'm already just like super down. But hey, I'm a polite person, so I ask, what do you mean? Second comment is just like, this code looks ugly. I say, oh my God, stop it here. Okay, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I hate code reviews. But, oh yeah, I want to learn. So I ask, what do you mean by the code is ugly? And then this person says, yeah, it would be nice if you use a for loop. I say, what do you mean? Just like nicer. What does that mean? A while loop will do the job. So what do you mean by nicer? So just advise if you did these kinds of comments, but we're not that extreme, but if you did these kinds of comments, here's one advice. Don't be a jerk, right? Because actually, jerks are this is really just like, that's why I hate code reviews. So who has been bullied by a jerk recently here, by a coworker in the last 2 months, let's say? No, just like, don't raise your hand. I know your coworkers are in the room. So, yeah, okay. Good. But yeah, I just like said that, right? These reviewers are actually the reason why I don't like code reviews, because we put our code out there for everyone to read. So the Jira team was actually just like looking at that and said, we need to improve it. We need to just like be better at these code reviews to make it more human, right? So we looked at it, and the reviewer is actually in this protected bubble, right? Can just like throw things at the author of the code, because the author actually is just like opening the work up, right? And we have to admit that, and we just like have to put it in. So we came up with some rules that we want to apply when we do code reviews, right? As a team, we came up with these rules, or the Jira team came up with these rules. They say, okay, first thing, assume competence, right? Assume that this person that wrote this code is competent. I mean, we hired people for a reason, and we just like put them through interviews, through coding tests, and we think like, yeah, they can do the job. So assume competence. That's the first thing. Second thing, be constructive in your feedback. Right? This code looks ugly. Not very constructive. So tell me more about this. Right? Be constructive, and also explain your reasoning. Right? A for loop would be nicer. Is not a good reason. Just like, I want to learn why I shouldn't use a while loop. Just like, tell me more about this. So they put their rules. They have a couple of more rules, but they put that and wrote their pull request submission and review etiquette, put that on Confluence, because we use Confluence for everything. And then just like, everyone just like follows that rule. And if somebody just like, someone breaks that rule, you can say just like, but we wrote down this etiquette. Please review that, and this is not good. So as a team, we actually decide that we want to have more humanized, nicer code reviews, because we need code reviews. All right, so that means actually no bullying, right? And more developer joy at the end. All right. So another thing is what the Confluence team actually did. So assume you have done your pull request, you merge it back to the main branch, and now of course build kicks off and your test kicks off and all of the things just like, and then it turns out that one test turns red. I say, oh, damn it. So what you do is just like you open your IDE, you look maybe at the log files, what failed, you open your IDE, you investigate, you look deeper, but you can't find what's the problem, right? And then, okay, what do I do? Well, I rerun the test, right? So I rerun the test, right? And then, boom, the test is green. Great, we can move on. Cool, 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 cool. Nothing happens, right? Wait, hold your horses. We just discovered a flaky test, or maybe flaky code. It's time for a commercial. I'll be back after the break.
Is seeing red build after red build getting old? Is rerunning your failed jobs getting you down? Is waiting on those failed jobs to finish making you crazy? Deterministic reliability is here to help. With our handy-dandy flaky test monitoring system, we will, eventually, automatically bypass those flaky tests. For 4 easy payments of free, you too can save time, ship quality code faster, be more productive, feel so much better when you go to work every day. You will be happier, your team will be happier, you'll stop dying inside, you'll stop banging your head against your desk, you'll stop replacing computers that are in a rage against the wall. Sorry. It's just a little close to home. Call 1-800-Atlassian today to get your free flake monitoring system.
All right, you don't call Atlassian today because we haven't put a product out there that is a flaky test detector. It's just like what the Confluence team actually discovered, and they built this flaky test detector for themselves to just like catch those flaky tests. And it's super simple what it does. Just like you create the pull request, the build and test kicks off, test fails, flaky test detector said, let me just like try, and I rerun it for 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and then test passes. Boom, flaky test detected. Great. So what's the next step? So the code will automatically mask, or the test will automatically marked as skip test. So we skip those tests, and then also we add a comment to the pull request, so someone has to look at it and see just like if the code is flaky or the test is flaky, and fix it. And then also, you get a Slack message from Kickoff and saying, hey, we have to look at it, something, so the whole team is informed that we have a flaky test, we have to jump on it right now. All right, so this means actually less debug frustration, and we saved a lot of engineering time by just like the flaky test detector, and a lot of frustration from engineers. And it means at the end, more developer joy. So, let's talk about flow. We love to be in the flow, right? We love to be just like work at code. It's getting dark outside. We didn't notice, right? We're just like super in the zone, in the flow. But unfortunately, development is not just about being in the flow and coding. There's much more, right? Our code flows through the build and test phase and the deploy phase, and we can just like optimize the hell out of it, just like being the Frederick Winslow Taylor, and say we can just like parallelize the tests to make it faster, or deploy everything in small microservices and just like deploy a small microservice instead of the whole monolith. We can optimize things here, but there's one phase in between, right? And that's the review phase. And that's really the problem, because it can take days, right? It can take days until we have feedback from our pull request. So the Confluence team actually, they measured this. And they actually measured that they have 3 days average from opening a pull request to merge it back. 3 days of actually waiting for someone else to just like look at your code, and then you come back 3 days later and you have to read through all the comments and just like say, okay, why did I actually do this? I can't remember because it's 3 days ago, right? And we need to make this faster, right? We need to make it faster to just like also deliver faster value to our customers. So this team actually looked at it, and as you see, just like the couple of open pull requests with a couple of reviewers here, and their team lead, Punit Aurora, came in and said, okay, I'm pinging everyone in the morning via Slack to say just like, okay, you might have missed the notification, but you are on an open pull request and your coworker is waiting for it. So please, before you just like get in the zone, get in your flow, review that pull request. So this is actually what it did, and the team loved it. They just like said, yeah, cool, yeah. We see that our pull request might get smaller, right? Because we just like don't want to review a whole bunch of things. So they learned along the way, right? And then they said, Punit, we know you're doing a great job, but we replace you by a bot called the Punit bot. that is now automatically pinging everyone in the morning, and that you have to review the code, right? So the team actually, through that, went down from 3 days to 1.2 days of average. Still, optimization could be optimized, but they learned a bunch of things. As I said, just like they made the pull request smaller, they not just like review it faster, they also changed a bunch of other stuff. So it means if you just like cut down the pull request time, less wait time for developers. Instead, they were not waiting, they were doing other stuff instead, but still it's just like on the top of your mind, cognitive load, and more developer joy. I'm obsessed with flow. So I love to compare workflow, just like how work flows through our teams, with actually traffic junctions. So let me show you a simulation. I have a simulation of a traffic junction, totally chaos. The cars are just like trying to find their way. It's a simulation. So you can see here just like everyone's stopping, and then just like if it's their turn, they just like find a way through the junctions. And the traffic flow in this simulation is 191 cars per minute, right? If you just like compare that to work, if just like your work just like you just like grab whatever, just like it's the hottest thing, that's probably the same as this junction, right? And we know this is not the right way to work. We need to add some processes when we work with more teams. Maybe if you're a startup, that's fine. But if you're just like in a larger organization and work with more teams, you probably need to do something. So let's add some processes here. Let's add some traffic lights, right? So some teams can go full ahead, do the job, and the other teams have to wait until their work is done, and then they can go full ahead. So this is just like the traffic light junction. And then if you look at what the simulation says, it says 235 cars per minute. So we improved the flow, right? We improved the workflow by adding processes instead of chaotic stuff, right? But this is not just it, right? We are agile. We don't want to work that way. We don't want to have a heavy bunch of processes, right? So let's remove the traffic lights and build a roundabout, right? And that's more like the agile way of doing things. So the sprint, if there's a slot in the sprint, the cars can fit in, right? There's also a fast lane, so great. This is a little bit more the agile way of things, right? And the traffic flow increases actually, 360 cars per minute. But that's not the end, right? This is not the end. Wait, there is the stack interchange. And the stack interchange is just like great, because you see the cars don't slow down. They don't have to just like wait until there's a room. It's just like they're just like going with their own speed and just like merge magically into the next lane. It's great. Traffic flow is 1,099 cars per minute. So how do we get to that? How do we get to that, right? We heard it in the last talk. We're going it by autonomous teams, right? Autonomous teams that are just like can own a feature or whatever from end to end. They work from end to end. Don't depend on other teams. Just like being autonomous. These teams, of course, needs to be aligned, right? We need to align those teams. But how does that work with autonomous teams? Because we are just like doing a lot of stuff in software development. We need designers, right? We need developers. We need QA. We need product managers on the team, right? To just like own it end to end. If you have to grab another team, they said no, we're just like limited right now what we can do. We just like can do something in 3 weeks. If we want to go full autonomy, then we need those teams, these people on our teams, right? There's a problem with that, and the Trello team discovered it. So we looked at, for QA engineers, we looked at how many QA engineers do we have and how many development teams do we have, or developers do we have, and the ratio is 1 to 30, right? So one QA quality engineer and 30 developers. That doesn't really work, right, in that autonomous teams, because we have to share the QA person there, right? They have to jump teams. So the developers were actually responsible at Trello for the automated test, where the QA was more responsible for the exploratory test, to test just like to build a test plan and test things through and see if the requirements are met. So we just like can't give everything now to the developers and add more cognitive load on this, right? So we built something we call quality assistance. So quality, not quality assurance, is quality QA, is quality assistance. So these QA engineers are helping developers to become better testers, to learn about about testing, right? What is testing all about? To expand their knowledge, right? So how do we do that? So we did something we call QA kickoffs. So in a QA kickoff, a quality engineer and the developer sits next to each other, right, and talks through a user story to understand how would you test that, right? And then build the test plan before we actually develop the feature. So before we develop the feature, we write down the test plan together with the developer. So in that way, actually, the developer learns and they talk things through, and it helps the developers to develop a feature better, right? To just like see, okay, this could be a quality issue, so we just like build it differently. So in that way, actually, also the developer could just like develop the feature, take the test plan, test the feature themselves, and deploy it, right? So without any dependencies of the QA engineer anymore, which is not entirely true. We're doing things like a demo where we demo the feature and the QA engineer can say, have you tried to test this? So there's a little bit of a safety net, but in theory, they could just like go in, fine, no dependencies, you can run autonomously and develop the feature on your own. It means less dependencies, right? Less dependencies and less wait time, and at the end, more developer joy. So let's talk about when we work together with other teams, right? Do we have the same language? Are we understanding each other? So think about that, right? Product people on one planet, developers on another planet, right? We don't speak the same language, right? There's a little connection between us. And here's a true story from my time of development, where I got a user story from a product manager that said, hey, as a user, I want to export the data so I can have it in the Excel file. Pretty simple, right? Build a button, export it in the Excel file, done. Gave it to the product manager, looked at it and said, you know, I need important data. I mean, I don't need the whole data, right? I just need kind of the important data, right? So, okay, new user story. As a user, I want to export the important data so I can have it in an Excel file. And I just like, okay, no problem, right? I just like, okay, these fields or this fields, cool, done. Then I gave it to the product manager, and the product manager said, okay, Excel file, right? I need a CSV file. I didn't know there's a difference, right? Okay, next user story. As a user, I want to export the important data so I can have it in a CSV file. So I gave that feature to the product manager and said, brilliant, works brilliant. I can export it from this tool, and then the customer can import it in their CRM tool, right, from the CSV file and say, what? You import it back in the CRM tool? There's an API. I could just like build a feature that just like shuffles the data over via the API. You don't need an export-import thing. So that was a frustrating moment where I didn't get the why we're building that, right? I knew that we're building an Excel file exporter, but I didn't know the why. And I don't want to blame the product people. They spend a lot of time doing a lot of research, measurements, interviews, experiments, prototypes, you name it. But the problem is then they squeeze it into small little user stories, throw it over the wall, and just like developers need to understand just like why we are actually building that, right? The Jira team actually came up with that problem, and just like we need to fix that. We need to just like bring product people and developers closer to each other. How do we do that? So first thing, just like we're looking at, developers are normally just like what we call the make phase, normally spend the most time in the make phase. And product people are spending most of their time in the wonder phase, just like, what's the problem? Why are we doing this? But that's not all phases that we have when we just like develop a brand new feature. There's also the explore phase. So we explore the solutions. What if we know the problem? What are possible solutions? Not the first thing is just like the best solution. So we explore different solutions. And then we also want to see what's the impact that we have with our customers. So we need to measure something at the end, right? To just like see, did we actually solve the problem, right? And we don't want to involve developers in all of these things at the same time. Yeah, we just like, but we want to involve them also in the problem phase, that they understand why we're building it. But they spend most of the time, of course, in the create phase, where product people probably spend more time in the product phase, but we also want to involve them in the create phase so they see what we are building. Right, so we developed little workshops or meetings or things, habits that we just like make sure that we just like be aligned on those phases. So we do project kickoffs, for example. So we're doing a kickoff when the product people are ready, just like they're doing a kickoff, they invite everyone, the designers, the IT operation people, the quality engineers, to just like say, okay, this is what we want to build. This is why we're building it. So everyone has the same understanding of why we're doing it. Then with the prototypes, it's like, of course, the product people are building some Figma stuff, and it was things in Figma. But we also, as developers, we need to see just like, is that technical feasible? Does it really work? And so we also just like be involved in the prototyping phase. And then during the make phase, we're doing open demos, right? Open demos to just like demonstrate what we have built. So everyone is just like there. And then we do goal sickness measures. At the end, we just like see, did we reach our goals? And we review it at the all together. So I don't want to go through all of these, but I would just like want to because this is a developer conference, I want to just like talk a little bit about how we run this demo. So this is a picture. This is probably not going to happen anymore because we are all distributed. So it's probably a Zoom meeting where we are when we're doing those demos. We're doing them regularly, weekly. So how does a demo session work? So first, open, so everyone can join. It's a recording. I can watch the recording. The recordings are openly shared. Everyone can actually join. Everyone knows, okay, we have this new cool feature, right? And we're doing a weekly demo on a Friday or Monday or whenever, right? Then it's outcome oriented. We don't talk about implementation details. We talk about what's the customer value we're currently delivering, right? And then also we challenge the solution. And sometimes the product people see, okay, we know we wrote this down, but let us take that back to our customers to see just like if that really resonates with them. So we challenge the solution that we built, and then also we're sitting together in one meeting, right? And we just like deliver small little value to our customers over time. So why don't we just like sit and celebrate the wins together? Because we all sitting here together, the product people, the IT operations, the QA people, the developers, everyone sits together, and everyone tries to build this thing. So we should also celebrate together, right? Celebrate what we achieved. Okay, so demos means actually less rework frustration because we find issues early in the process when they are easy and cheap to fix and not when they are out at the customer, and more developer joy. So I've been talking now for half an hour about just like things that we do at Atlassian, but the question is actually what you're saying, just like great things, Sven, but what would Frederick Winslow Taylor say, right? Where is just like the optimization? How do you know you're getting better? How do you know you improve, right? And it was not Frederick Winslow Taylor that said that, but Peter Drucker actually said, hey, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it, right? So how do we measure, right? And if you don't measure anything in your software development right now, I can recommend just like you start first with the DORA metrics, right? DORA metrics proven, high performance teams, but take that with a grain of salt. Because deployment frequency, for example, if you're just like a mobile development team, deployment frequency doesn't make sense for you, right? Just like look first, what is your problem that you have currently as a team, and just like measure that, right? So every team is different, and every team has different problems. Every product is different. DORA metrics are a great start, and it's proven that has improved the developer experience and the developer productivity. But look at what is really important for you. Where is your problem as a team? And take those as a metrics. And then measure them regularly. So we use our own tool, Compass, for that. It's a developer experience platform where you can just like see the measurements of every microservice that you're responsible for as a team. But it's not just important to measure; it's also important to set some baselines. So you know you're improving and not getting worse, right? But there's one problem with this, right? It's in the tool. So how do we know? Just like how do we know that we are not getting worse, right? And sometimes the metrics turns out to be red, but it's okay. It's okay. We know what the problem is. If we just like work on small little complicated code right now, deployment frequency goes down because we just like have to spend a little bit more time, right? Deployment frequency goes down. It shows deployment frequency goes down, but there's no problem. There's really no problem. It's okay. We know that. So what we do is actually we're doing a weekly ritual called checkops. And checkops, we're looking everything just like happened on the operational side, just like alerts, when we got paged, things like that. And then also at the development metrics to just like see, is that something that we need to take care of, or do we actually, with our knowledge, say it's okay, it will go up again, we know that, it's okay right now. So we built actually checkops directly into Compass, so you have side-by-side view of your metrics, and then you can talk about those as a team. So measuring things is great, right? We can see just like, where can we improve or what not, but does that actually have something to do with developer satisfaction, with productivity? So GitHub did this a cool experiment. They actually asked their developers, how good was your day? How productive were you today, right? And you know, some days we are more productive, other days we are actually less productive, right? That's just like the nature of things. And then they correlate that with the data. They just like put the data on top of it and just like wanted to see just like, oh, how good are we? And then, you know, they couldn't find any relation from what developer felt with what the data was showing. So can we really measure, right? Poor Octocat here. Can we really measure developer productivity? Sometimes I think managers just like want to treat software development like this here, right? Okay, the idea phase, and we can optimize that, and then the coding phase, and we can optimize that, and then a review phase, and everything just like to make it more productive, to make it shorter. But you know what? It's not like a car factory. We're not working in a car factory. We're not building the same car all over again or the same piece of software every day. We're inventing stuff every day, new, right? So don't treat software development like a production line, right? And measuring is fine, but measure what is important, but don't make important what you can measure. Some companies are just like putting things out there and say, this is now our holy grail measurement, but see what's important for you as a team. And also just like, why don't you just like ask your developers, right? They know actually what the problem is in software development because they work with their software, with their pipelines and all things day in, day out. So asking them, helps maybe also to just like find issues, right? So we are doing this regular developer joy surveys. And we're not just like asking, hey, what's the problem? Or are you satisfied with that? We're asking particular things, vital signs that we call vital signs, right? That we want to see if the team is okay with that. So these are our vital signs that we measure, right? Are you satisfied with your speed to ship quality code? Are you satisfied with your waiting time, right? Are you satisfied with your execution, independence, autonomous teams? Are you satisfied with your access to tools? Do you have the right tools, process, and practices? How about effort managing external standards like security and governance? Managing your code and your pipelines and your infrastructure. Are you satisfied with that? With the ramp-up time, if you get new developers on the team, right? Is that okay? Or how's your developer satisfaction overall? We want to improve that. So we are asking these questions to developers regularly, and we're not just like asking how satisfied are you with that. We are also asking, because every team is actually different, we're also asking how important is that for your team? Because for some teams it might be important to have a fast ramp-up time, for other teams not, right? So we are asking these, and out of these two values, we're calculating a so-called opportunity score. And the opportunity score shows us if things are, and then we apply a traffic light system to it, and it things like if things are in this wide corridor, it's okay, we're fine. Just like if we're getting closer to, it seems to be important and satisfaction is low, we need to do something about the red dots and look at the yellow dots. If it's in the other area, it's just like, yeah, not so important. Maybe that's not a good vital sign, right? It's not important, but we are satisfied with it, or whatever, right? So, so if you want to try that out, I put a type form together. If you just like want to try it out yourself, where you can just like go through. I don't collect any email addresses or anything there. It's just like a type form where you just like get the traffic light at the end and see just like in which areas you should improve, and in which areas you just like fine with that. Try that out if you want. So, and then you see just like the next step is just like if we know just like what to do is try to fix things, right? Try to fix some things that are not good. So the red dots would be just like the first thing that I would look at and fix those, right? And you saw just like that Atlassian teams they did fix things like building a flaky test detector, and then they created the video, right, and spread the learnings about it, right. So this is something that helped this one particular team, right, and then just like shared it out so more teams can actually use this technology. So for example, also like the Punit bot here. Punit bot is just like we're writing a lot of blog posts at Atlassian, and you can see just like the team of the Punit bot has written a blog post and wrote everything about it. How does it work? How does it help ourselves? And now there are 20 teams within Atlassian that use the Punit bot for themselves, right? So here's the summary. Take your measurements and then also run regular surveys and ask your developers. Both things are important. The measurements are signals that shows you something. The surveys are a little bit more clear of what you should fix. And give that to your autonomous teams, right? Teams that are fixing stuff themselves, right? So give them also time. At Atlassian, we give our development teams 10% of their time to just like work on productivity issues. And then fix these things, right? To improve actually the quality of the code, the progress, and the value that you deliver to the customers. And as I said in the beginning, if I work on great software, if things just like are flowing through the pipelines, no dependencies, I don't have to wait for any other team or any other technology to just like do things, and I built great value. I built my customers love what we're building. We're building the right things together with the product managers, right in the middle there, right? This is really where developer joy is actually happening. So we all became developers for a reason, because we love it. We love to build stuff. We love to create stuff. We love to work on code, and we love to just like build code and then create real value out of the code. We can do these things. We have this superpower to really build things. So don't forget that fun that you have when developing software. Thank you. Enjoy Øredev.